Welcome into the LSU Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing, live from Tiger Stadium. And finally, for the first time in basically a month, we have a happy postgame show for you. LSU has defeated Arkansas 23-22. Last time LSU won a football game, Brian Kelly was still the head coach. LSU was still in the top 10. College football playoffs dreams still danced in everyone's heads. All of that has gone by the wayside, but LSU does have a win after 3 losses with a bye week mixed in. It has been a long time, but LSU does defeat Arkansas today, 23-22. This is not a big win. This win will not go down in the annals of school history, but a win is a win, and especially in the SEC, keep a winning streak up against Arkansas that I believe dates to 5 years now. And, bowl eligible. Obviously, much bigger and better things were expected for this LSU team this year, but they do get the win today, 23-22. They improved to 6-4 on the season, and we'll close up the home schedule against Western Kentucky next Saturday. So we will have some visits from our Advocate LSU writers as they exit the interview areas here. Wilson Alexander, Koki Riley, Scott Rabelais, Reed Darcy. We'll see which one of them can stop by. LSU wins it. The game-winning touchdown was a 12-yard pass from Michael Van Buren to Bauer Sharp that came with 7:53 left in the game. Extra point by Damian Ramos put LSU up 23-22. They then are able to get a stop on defense. Arkansas drove down the field, but misses a 48-yard field goal with about 5 minutes to play. And from there, LSU's offense was able to run out the clock. They ended the game with Harlem Berry running for a first down inside the Arkansas 10. He wisely fell down to the turf with less than 2 minutes left. Arkansas only had 1 timeout left. They used it right there, but LSU was able to kneel out the clock from that point. So they win this one 23-22. Could have been by more. Obviously, LSU could have punched in that touchdown at the end. It could have been worse. Arkansas had 3 turnovers, which we'll talk about, including one that led to an LSU field goal and 2 others that took points off the board for the Razorbacks in all likelihood. So Arkansas falls to 0-6 in the SEC. They are 2-8 overall. They have lost 8 games in a row. So it could be worse, LSU fans, in a game between 2 interim coaches, Bobby Petrino for Arkansas and Frank Wilson for LSU. At least LSU comes out on top in this one, 23-22. We'll take your comments and questions live. Patrick McGee is producing. He's going to send any pertinent comments to me. I can respond to them or have our writers respond to them when they get out here. And other than that, we will go through the game. We'll get some visits from those writers, and we'll call it an afternoon, because I think we all know with this program talking about the games for the rest of 2025 is pretty meaningless. Obviously, again, it's nicer to win than to lose. Expect LSU to get another win next week against Western Kentucky, and then they will be pretty big underdogs in their season finale at Oklahoma on November the 29th. Same Oklahoma team that is currently winning at Alabama, so that's going to be a stiff test. But, hey, a win is a win. Obviously, everyone is wondering more about the future of this program, where they go from here with the coaching search. We talked about that a lot on the LSU Insider this week. Nick Saban is suddenly the betting favorite to be the next LSU coach. I'm not sure how realistic that is, or if that's just a couple people who put a bunch of money on Nick Saban at huge odds, and so the bookmaker had to protect themselves by lowering the odds down. I don't know, but that is one of the names that's out there. There's obviously a lot else going on with that coaching search, and we will continue to talk about that. But in the meantime, hey, you got to feel good for Frank Wilson to get a win as an interim coach in his second game. He presided over the loss to Alabama last Saturday, now gets a win over Arkansas here. So you lost to a team that is unbeaten in the SEC, and you beat a team that is winless in the SEC. So now we see what he can do in the last 2 games. Not that Frank Wilson is really a candidate for the full-time job, but it is nice to see him have some success. He could be putting together some sort of an application to be a head coach again at another school. He has been before at both McNeese and at UTSA. Maybe Frank Wilson does get another chance I thought the LSU team played really hard for him today. That was one of the questions we had coming in was this LSU team just ready to pack it in? And obviously not every player is going to do that, but if enough of them are ready to pack it in, then this becomes a really ugly loss. And quite frankly, it kind of looked like that might be the case for a good chunk of this game, or at least a good chunk of the first quarter of this game, in which Arkansas led 14-0. Arkansas took the opening kickoff, really went right down the field. They had their first 3 plays were gains of 7, and then 18, and then 17, and they go all the way down. And then it's 3rd and 2 from the LSU, maybe 25. I have the drive summary here. And Arkansas fumbled the ball. LSU recovered. And so LSU's defense able to get a stop there, kind of thanks to the mistake by Arkansas. But then the LSU offense goes 3 and out, and their punt is blocked. And Arkansas returns the blocked punt for a touchdown. It's 7-0. LSU goes 3 and out again. Arkansas comes down and scores. It's 14-0 on a Taylon Green touchdown run, 11-yard touchdown run. And so it's 14-0 LSU, or 14-0 Arkansas. LSU looks like they've just kind of come out and said, well, to hell with this season. This is going to get ugly. But it didn't. I think to LSU's credit, to that coaching staff's credit, they continued to play hard. Michael Van Buren led a touchdown drive that ended with a 27-yard touchdown run from Caden Durham. That was on the first play of the second quarter. And so it was 14-0 as the first quarter ended. Caden Durham made it 14-7 on the very first play of the second quarter. And from there, LSU's defense just really started to play well, with some help from Arkansas. I mean, Taylon Green threw an interception in the end zone where it looked like a really bad throw. Maybe he just wasn't on the same page with his receiver on the play. But Mansour Delane, who had a hell of a game, he picked it off. That led to an LSU field goal before halftime. Michael Van Buren led a really nice 2-minute drive there before halftime. That third field goal gives LSU the lead, 16-14. There was a previous interception that led to another LSU field goal. So the defense was setting up some points there for the offense, and LSU leads at 16-14 at halftime. Arkansas did retake the lead in the third quarter on a touchdown run from Mike Washington, a 9-yard touchdown run with 4:02 left in the third quarter. Arkansas got the 2-point conversion. Really a pretty spectacular rush right behind me here by Taylon Green, the quarterback, who hurdled an LSU defender into the end zone on that 2-point conversion and made it 22-16. And that remained the score until the aforementioned 12-yard touchdown pass from Van Buren to Bauer Sharp with 7:53 left in the fourth quarter. That came on a third down play. And if LSU doesn't get that, I guess you're kicking a field goal there to make it 22-19. But then you've got to get a stop. And as it turned out, maybe LSU would have scored again and won the game anyway. But that was a big play. A little Michael Van Buren rollout. He finds Bauer Sharp alone in the corner of the end zone, opposite corner of the end zone. And LSU takes a 23-22 lead. Defense kind of gave up some ground, but then they stop Arkansas a couple of plays. Mansour Delane, another really nice play, breaking up the third down pass on that series. That was actually the last defensive snap of the game for LSU. Delane had a huge game. He breaks that pass up, forces Arkansas to try the 48-yard field goal. That was missed. And then LSU's offense able to last 5 minutes off the clock. And that's something, we'll talk about Michael Van Buren here in a second, but that's something that was really missing from this LSU team all season long, was the ability to run the ball, particularly when the opposing defense knew you were going to run it. And LSU was able to do that on that final drive. See what the final numbers on that drive were. Actually, I don't think I have that here. This is just the first half, so never mind. But they did soak up the last 5 minutes of that drive with like a 60-ish yard drive, just kind of converting a bunch of 3rd and 3 worse, and able to run the clock out there. So really good job by LSU at the end of that game. And I think Michael Van Buren, like, to his credit, he kind of managed this game really well. His final numbers were good, not great. It was 21 of 31 for 221 yards, a touchdown. He was sacked 4 times. He ran 10 times for 36 yards. 35 of those came on one play. Now, the 10 rushes include the 4 sacks, so he actually ran for more yards than that, and you subtract the sack yardage. But efficient day for Michael Van Buren. He was just over 68% completion thereabouts. Had the 1 touchdown, ran for 36 yards, and he ran for 55 yards, and then the 4 sacks were a loss of 19. So he did, he had 6 carries for 55 yards, and then subtract the sacks. So he was able to move the chains. He brought an element to this offense that we did not see with Garrett Nussmeier, and so that's definitely part of it. We can talk about Nussmeier. Did not dress out for this game. Frank Wilson said early in the week that nothing had changed with the quarterback situation, that Nuss would be the starter. That obviously did not happen. Whether that was actually an injury that suffered in practice by Nussmeier that would have kept him out of this game no matter what, or whether that was just sort of a business decision by Nuss or LSU to say, why risk further injury? We want to give Van Buren a chance anyway, so let's just hold you out. I don't know the answer to that, but Nussmeier was dressed out, could not have played. It would have been interesting had Van Buren gotten hurt. LSU didn't have any other scholarship quarterbacks dressed out, I don't believe. And if that was the case, I think you probably see a wildcat situation with either Zavion Thomas or Jawan Johnson, who incidentally threw passes on one of LSU's drives. Pretty interesting that they went to that well 3 times on one, didn't complete, but both Zavion Thomas and Jawan Johnson able to complete passes. LSU finished, actually, the stats only showed Jawan Johnson with a completion. I could have sworn Zavion Thomas also had he had an incompletion on that drive. I thought he also had a completion, but he did finish with 6 catches for 80 yards as well. So interesting. You were able to run the ball, brought some elements to their offense that we had not seen before, and ultimately it's enough to get some kneel down game to win this thing, 23-22. Total yards, LSU finishes with 390 to Arkansas's 340. They ran 70 plays to just 54 for Arkansas, had 34 minutes and 45 seconds time of possession, just 25-15 for Arkansas. So yeah, the clock, ran the ball, especially there. Had that long touchdown drive, 12 plays, 92 yards, 6 minutes and 17 seconds to take the lead, and then a 5 minute and 7 seconds of that drive to run out the clock. And so they soaked up more than 11 minutes of that fourth quarter clock. Florida Man, looking at your comments, says Nuss is done for the year. I would think so, man. I mean, there may be kind of a central push to get him some action next week if he's healthy enough. But if there's, just in his last game in Tiger Stadium, that sort of thing, if he is at all at risk of either injury or, if, as you say, he's just, not going to be able to play, then this is it for him. And in his career as it ends with a very disappointing season. But it is what it is. I mean, on to the future. Michael Van Buren kind of auditioning to be the starting quarterback next season. I don't know how that works with a new coach. Obviously, they're going to be transfer portal shopping no matter what, either for a starting quarterback or for someone to back up Michael Van Buren. You need more quarterbacks in. But Michael Van Buren's kind of auditioning for it. I thought he was, good, not great today. Also think the context of this is important. Arkansas's defense is not good. Arkansas has allowed more than 30 points in every SEC game until today. And LSU honestly could have had 30 if they scored that touchdown at the end. They did the smart thing and ran the clock out. But they have allowed 30 points to every team they've played in SEC play. So I wouldn't sit here and anoint anything yet and say the offense, finally found it, or Michael Van Buren's the starter, or anything like that. I think, you got to keep the context in mind. And that same thing goes next week. Obviously, Western Kentucky, a Conference USA team coming in here. Are they still Conference USA? And just probably going to be physically overmatched. And so LSU's offense probably will look pretty good again. And next week, severe test at Oklahoma on the road against one of the best defenses in the country. just like at Alabama last week, and the offense looked lost. So I don't know how much you learn, but at least we did see from Michael Van Buren, he was good enough to go win you a conference game today, and look pretty decent doing it. So it's pretty interesting what LSU will do. I personally think they're going to go transfer portal shopping for a starter. We're going to see who the coach is, right? If the coach comes from another program with an incumbent quarterback, you always have the possibility of him bringing that quarterback with him. But if it's not a sitting head coach or a coach, maybe a coach from the NFL, a Joe Brady or a Nick Saban, then who knows what LSU is going to do. But I do think they're going to go transfer portal shopping either way. Apologize for any connection issues we had. If our connection's bad, I apologize for that. Hopefully it will stay. I see Scott Rabelais is on the way from the locker room, so we'll see if we can grab him for just a minute here. Post-game show. Rab is going to set his things down here and join us. Game is the deadline pressure is not so great on these guys. Rab wiping his brow. And, Scott, it has cooled off significantly from pregame,
nice.
So it's nice out here
right now. It's nice out here right now, yes. It's a little breezy.
Question for you. Is this a top 10 LSU victory of all time or just close to it? I'm being sarcastic, obviously. I don't think we're in that range today, but honestly, for this team, and I'm sure you just saw it in the post-game interview session, like it's probably just relief. A win feels good after a long time.
Yeah, obviously not a perfect game for LSU. There were a lot of things that they wish they could have done differently, but a scrappy win against an Arkansas team that's obviously struggled. They're 2-8 now this year, but you get a win in the SEC. It's more and more like the NFL. I mean, you just get any kind of win, you're happy about it, and especially when you've lost 3 straight and 4 out of 5, and your season has just spiraled down like it has for LSU. It's just fun for them to get a win, and you could tell the joy and the relief from the players and from Frank Wilson, and they stuck with it. I would have thought to begin the game, man, these guys are kind of mailing it in. Block punt, Arkansas comes down and scores a touchdown, it's 14-0. But they stuck with it and stayed scrappy, and obviously made a lot of great plays, especially on defense, to pull this one out. So, hats off to them for sticking with it, because it would have been easy to do otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I said that earlier. It's like this team could have quit, and I think that in particular, defense is where you kind of see effort or lack thereof. And I thought they played really hard for Frank Wilson and for Blake Baker.
Yeah, and bent but didn't break. I was reminded during the game of a lot of teams LSU had in the 80s when I was in school under Bill Arnsparger, who was a defensive coordinator with the Miami Dolphins on their perfect Super Bowl team in 1972. And a lot of times they would bend but don't break. Teams would go down, go up and down the field, but they wouldn't get in the end zone. He always said a win. He said if a team didn't score a touchdown, it was like a shutout to him, even though they score some field goals. And obviously Arkansas had a special teams touchdown and 1 touchdown drive, but when they 2 touchdown drives, but when they had to have it, they made the 3 turnovers, and they obviously had the goal line stop right over here behind us in the north end zone. And those are the kind of plays that, it wasn't an all-time great win for LSU, but those are the kind of things that you'll remember for this team in a season that has not gone very well.
What were your impressions of Michael Van Buren as a starter today?
Slow start, as Frank Wilson just said in his post-game interview, but came on, gave you that kind of dual threat that LSU needed. 221 yards passing. He suckered in the defense, thinking he's going to run for the first down. He throws the touchdown pass to Bauer Sharp, and then of course he had the 35-yard scramble, and not to knock Garrett Nussmeier, but that's not a play Garrett Nussmeier is going to give you.
No.
And they really needed that then to maintain their possession. That was a huge play in the game. And so what 267 yards total offense. It was really a good effort. I mean, especially, as Coach Wilson said, it's pressure coming in here. You make your first start for LSU in Tiger Stadium. The team's things are not going well for the team. There's all kind of negative talk around the team and uncertainty. And I thought he did well. And I think if he has to be the quarterback going forward, obviously we don't know what Garrett Nussmeier's status will be going forward next week or the rest of the season. It's what he did today is something that he can build on certainly next week against Western Kentucky, the team they'll be heavily favored to beat, and then against Oklahoma to end the season, and then whatever happens after that.
Yeah, just before we let you go, I mean, looking forward, obviously this season is not where any LSU fan hoped or expected it would be. They are now bowl eligible. You have the senior day home finale next weekend, and then a really tough test at Oklahoma. But I mean, at this point, all eyes are on the coaching search and what the future of the program is.
It is, and so many. You can ask a million questions. What players will be back next year? Will Michael Van Buren, does he have a chance to stay and be the starting quarterback next year? Are they bring in a transfer? And by the way, he was the only available varsity. I mean,
Scholarship
quarterback today because Colin Hurley was not here. Wilson Alexander wrote this on our website. So. What coaches will we retain? I would think it'd be smart for the next coach to retain Frank Wilson, but like I always say, you can't put those limitations on a new coach. He's got to be able to decide what he wants to do. But I think they showed some things on film, and for the next staff to think about that will be that could be meaningful come 2026.
All right, he's Scott Rabelais. We will let him go right and bring on LSU football beat writer for the Advocate, Wilson Alexander. You make the handoff there.
Like a handoff?
Yeah, you got to get right in the belly. All right. Wilson Alexander, your impressions of a victory that will not go down in the annals of LSU history, but probably felt pretty good to those players.
It definitely. This is a team that's on a 3-game losing streak. Coming into this, their head coach has been fired. There's been so much drama around this program over the past few weeks that to be able to kind of get the monkey off your back a little bit and win a game that you had to come back in probably feels really good. I mean, the players post-game that we talked to were pretty jovial. Anytime that you win a game in the SEC, it's going to feel that way, even against an Arkansas team that came into this 2-7. I mean, this is an LSU team that is still fighting, I think. And I think we saw that today. And they rallied around Frank Wilson, and we're really happy to get him a win. We saw Caden Durham come into the game news conference and congratulate him, give him a hug. They're happy today.
And, I mean, look, it was 14-0 Arkansas 10 minutes into this game. It could have gone really ugly. And I think even more credit goes to LSU for preventing that from happening.
Especially defensively, right? I mean, after giving up the touchdown, having the blocked punt, as you see, the offense was struggling there, and LSU's defense was close. I think they gave up that touchdown to Taylor Green around the 4-minute mark, first quarter or so. They did not give up another touchdown until like midway through the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Pretty much 2 full quarters of scoreless football.
Almost exactly. 4:06 and 4:02 were the times on this.
Exactly. And then I think that, it says a lot defensively that this team is continuing to fight on that side of the ball, even though this season is lost from what you wanted to accomplish originally. And then they gave the offense enough time to kind of figure some things out. I mean, that was not a great offensive performance, not the most inspiring thing. But defensively, I mean, Harold Perkins was all over the place today. He had a really good game. Mansour Delane continues to impress. And they made some really critical stops down in the red zone. Arkansas's offense was number 7 in the country nationally, and in red zone red zone conversions. Number 1 in red zone touchdown percentage. They were 2 of 4 today in the red zone. LSU did a great job down there backed up against its own goal line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember, like, this Arkansas team is as hungry as you can get for an SEC win too. And so if you want it, you really got to fight for it. And so LSU did. The quarterback situation, Wilson, Nussmeier does not dress out. I don't think after late in the week, anyone was surprised that he didn't play. First of all, what were your impressions of Michael Van Buren's play today?
Michael Van Buren did some good things. That 35-yard scramble to help ice the game was impressive in that he saw the space and he just took advantage of it. His rushing numbers aren't going to pop. They didn't pop last year at Mississippi State. I don't think they probably ever will during his career. He ended up today with, because of the sacks included, I don't know, it's like 10 carries,
36 yards. Yeah.
So it's, but he did enough to make the defense, I think, think about it. And then obviously took advantage of that in a critical moment. Clutch play, the throw to Bauer Sharp for the go-ahead touchdown, rolling out, probably had some space to run and pick up the first down, but sees an opening there to score. He made some really decisive throws over the middle and deep downfield that I liked. There was the one coming out of the third quarter, Xavion Thomas, from this hash mark all the way down the opposite sideline for a 34-yard gain, dropped it into a bucket. So he did some good things, but he has a lot of ways he needs to improve as well. It wasn't totally crisp for most of the game, especially at the beginning.
The other half of the QB question, do you think we see Garrett Nussmeier again this year? I mean, it's hard to say. Senior day next, or maybe his last home game next Saturday, but if he's hurt, he's hurt.
I don't want to say definitively, and then maybe he comes back out or something. but at this point, it's hard to see him playing again this season. He's, Frank Wilson talked about post-game today, again, how he re-aggravated in some way that abdominal injury that first came up in preseason camp. The full nature and extent of what that injury is, we don't know. Garrett, whenever he's asked about it, declines to speak. And other than what Brian Kelly has said and what now Frank Wilson has said, we don't have a lot of solid information about what he's dealing with. But if you're Garrett Nussmeier at this point, if you're going to put yourself in harm's way, what's the reason for that? When you're trying to set yourself up for an NFL future in the pre-draft process, if you need time to heal, then you probably should start to take that time to heal. And LSU can really get a full evaluation of Michael Van Buren going into 2026 for this next coaching staff, this next offensive coordinator. I think that is probably the best thing for all parties involved, but it's a shame that if that is the case, that Garrett Nussmeier's last snap as an LSU Tiger would be spinning into a bad sack against Alabama in a 20-9 loss. That would be really a shame, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is the last moment of him on the field.
All right, before we wrap up here, I think this team set a tone today a little bit to say we are not just playing out the string. We are going to continue to play hard. But what are your thoughts? The bowl game may be a different animal. We don't even know who's going to play in that thing. But over the next 2 weeks, I think LSU kind of said, we're still here. We're still going to play hard. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. And they showed that against Alabama. The game was really sloppy, but defensively, they came out playing energy against Alabama. Offensively, this team is just I think that that's just what we're going to see the rest of this season. And for the next 2 games, defensively plays with a lot of energy and makes things disruptive that are going to put you in difficult positions. And, Western Kentucky is a 7-2 going into the last game of the regular season. We'll see what at that point Oklahoma is still playing. And Oklahoma defensively really tough. So, I think LSU for that game, but going into it, they will not be favored.
No, they will not. So we will keep an eye on the games, but most of our attention, quite frankly, going to be on the future of this program, the next coach, and all of that. You can catch us on the LSU Sports Insider. Twice a week, you can catch all of Wilson, Rab, and everyone else's work at theadvocate.com/LSU. So LSU beats Arkansas 23-22 today. This has been the LSU Insider postgame show, live from Tiger Stadium. For Patrick McGee, our producer, and Scott Rabelais, he's Wilson Alexander and Ewing. See you next.